Belly crossed in the club, making her own Conrad edit in her head to We Can't Be Friends by Ariana Grande. A moment. And the next thing I want to talk about is the color theory and the use of color in the show to kind of depict shifting emotions. Belly hopping in a cab with nothing other than her wedding dress and her cheap ass ring, her air tag, and like 10 bathing suits. There was no other song that was meant for that scene other than Dress. I think that's the most intimate thing anyone has ever done to me. Girl, you're getting married. Your fiance's brother, who's also your ex, and you're saying that about him? Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Nina. If you are new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. And if you are not new, thanks for coming back. So today's video is going to be a little bit different than my usual content because I need to talk about The Summer I Turned Pretty. Like, I am going to explode if I don't just like talk about everything that this show made me feel. There's just like so much wrapped up in this show that I just want to talk about and discuss with you guys because it seems to be the first time in a really long time that everyone collectively has felt this way about a television show that comes out every week like they used to, instead of having that binge watch culture. And I think because the nature of this show is so rooted in the books and the symbolism and the Easter eggs that people like me, lots of the Swifties, are very invested, especially because so much of Taylor Swift's music is in this, as well as other artists that we listen to all the time. But this show has an infinite amount of layers to it, and it's a show that you have to watch more than once to pick up every little detail, and it takes kind of several watches to really get the symbolism, the Easter eggs. So by like the third time I'm watching the episode, I'm finally clicking into the symbolism, the theories, the parallels. And I think the same could be said about reading the books. So for context, I read all of the books multiple times, and I read them before the first season came out, and so I feel like that kind of affects my view of the entire series as a whole, kind of knowing the plot line beforehand and seeing where it diverges. And even though these books came out in 2009, 2010, when I was in middle school, I didn't read them back then. It was for a very specific reason, and that reason is that I did not like her name. I don't know what it was, but like I was very much judge a book by its cover when I was younger, and if I didn't like the main character's name, I like couldn't get into the book. So Belly was a hard no for me back then, which is really unfortunate because I absolutely would have ate this series up at that age, because I'm pretty sure I read every single romance book in the young adult section of Barnes & Noble when I was 16. But I'm no stranger to Jenny Han's writing because I read all of the To All the Boys books before the movies came out. I read them as they were coming out in real time, and I loved those books so much. I thought if I could get that into that series that I really should give The Summer I Turned Pretty a try and try to get past her name. And now I don't even think about her name being different because we just have heard it for the past like 4 years straight. I feel like there's two types of people when it comes to like book to movie adaptations, and it's the people that read it before they watch the movie, and then there's the people who want to watch it first and then go back and read the series. Comment down below which one are you. I'm definitely the person that wants to read it before I see it, because for me sometimes I miss a lot of plot during a movie, and so if I have the context beforehand, I can better lock into the movie and kind of understand what's going on, and having that context in my head is kind of important, and also noticing the difference between the books and the movies and what I think about those changes. So I first read the series when I was 24, a couple months before it came out, so I knew that it was going to be a TV show, and I'm pretty sure I read all 3 books in like 2 days because I just like flew through them. I was obsessed. It was so good. I ended up reading it again after the first season, leading into season 2. I really just love the way that Jenny writes. Her narrative voice is very strong. She's really good at writing that internal dialogue that's happening. And what I loved about The Summer I Turned Pretty is that we also got some dual perspectives. We got Jeremiah's in the second book, and then we've got Conrad's in the third book. And I am just a sucker for a dual perspective. Maybe it's just because I'm nosy and I want to know what everybody is thinking and I just want all the tea, but I feel like it adds so much to the experience as somebody in the audience, as a reader, as a consumer of the content. So as somebody who read the books, I really wanted to just dive into all of my thoughts, opinions, reactions, season 3, as well as the series as a whole, what I think the show improved on, as well as things I wish they had included. But like I said, the one thing that has truly made this show what it is the online community and the discourse created by it. It has just been so fun every single week on Wednesday to sit down for 1 hour and be so locked into a show. I don't remember the last time I watched a show and I like didn't look at my phone the whole time. My eyes are glued to the TV. And then going online afterward and seeing everyone's reactions, what everyone thinks and the theories and the meaning and the symbolism. I just think it's so special. We all get to sit down and watch Belly and Conrad terrorize the beach time after time. It just feels like a big inside joke. The memes about the mirror glaze dark chocolate raspberry coulis cake, 80% cacao, of course.
No cacao, but you can still keep the raspberry coulis.
Belly, cacao is the bean.
We were all baking Conrad's dirt bomb muffins, making Belly's fancy pomegranate slushies. Also, I must point out, I am wearing my Connie baby shirt. You can't really see it with the lighting, but I promise you, it's there, Connie baby. I made this myself with different little pieces of fabric from Hobby Lobby. It's a cute little DIY. I wish I would have used a little bit darker thread, but you get the idea. I don't know what it is about food, but it seems to play a very important role in the show, and almost every time they sit down around the dinner table, some kind of drama happens and somebody needs to pick a fight. Conrad's always trying to get Belly to accept his muffins. Belly's always eating candy. Belly is also destroying all the peaches at the farm stand. And I feel like every time I sit down to watch the show, I am just so hungry and I am in desperate need of a sweet treat. But not to fear, because everything that I need to make that happen is right here, thanks to the sponsor of today's video, Uber Eats. So while you're sitting on your couch watching Belly shove a chocolate cupcake into her mouth on the way to Michael's, your own sweet treat could be on its way to you in a matter of minutes, so you don't have to miss a single second of Connie screen time, which we all know is very precious. Now, this isn't Cousins Beach. If you do live there, I am very jealous of you. But with Uber Eats, you can find all your own local hidden gems that have the same charm and delicious meal options. Ordering delivery with Uber Eats is super easy, just a few taps, and you can track your order all the way to your front door. There's even a no-contact delivery option, so if you're already in your PJs and your face mask, you don't have to talk to anybody. But if you need the mental break from Belly trying to decide which brother she's gonna inherit the beach house from, you can skip the delivery fee and go pick it up yourself while you emotionally decompress. And if you're trying to save money, maybe for a better engagement ring or pay off some extra student debt, you can check the Uber Eats app for new deals every single day. So if you're looking for a stress-free and reliable option for dinner, or any meal for that matter, that isn't Conrad's unseasoned grilled chicken for the 4th night in a row, I highly recommend ordering delivery with Uber Eats. Maybe something Belly should have done, but you can use code NENA15 to get $15 off your very first order of $20 or more. Once again, thank you so much to Uber Eats for sponsoring this video. It really helps keep the channel going. Now let's get back to Cousins Beach. Okay, so first I wanted to go over some major plot deviations from the book series to the TV series, because I tend to forget, honestly, and I think that is like something to be said about this show. It's so good that I don't even care what changes Jenny makes sometimes, because I'm just so engrossed in the show that I forgot how it actually was in the books and I have to go and like reference it again. I would say the major difference happened in season 1 with the Deb ball. Honestly, I forgot the Deb ball wasn't even in the book until I reread it a few weeks ago, but I thought that was like a really good change that happened, because I think the show did need a bigger plot point for the main thing that was going to happen throughout the entire season. And also parallel-wise, throughout all of the seasons, we always call back to this Deb ball, and it's just like a very significant symbol of Belly and the foreshadowing of her being in a white dress with Conrad. And I think it added so many layers to the plot, because Belly is doing all these things with her mom and Susanna that she was not going to get to do for her actual wedding because Susanna was not going to be there. Little did we know, as people watching the show, if you didn't know Susanna was gonna have cancer, it hits different the second time you watch it knowing that. And also, if you know what's going to happen, you can immediately kind of get that. The reasoning for having Belly look at wedding dresses and do all these things that she would have gotten to do with Susanna. And season 1 only being 6 episodes is so crazy to think about, because this past season that happened felt so long and so much happened. I really commend Jenny for condensing that whole book into 6 episodes, because the things that she did have to cut out, I couldn't even remember what they were, and so I feel like that is a successful adaptation. And I feel like everything that she added in season 1 I really liked. I really liked that Taylor was a more prominent character in all of the seasons seasons because really she's not even in book 2 really, and in book 1 she has a small part and then we get some flashbacks, and I think that might have been one of the things we were missing in book 1 is a little bit more of the flashbacks with Taylor and like their friendship, because I think their friendship in the book is so different from what is portrayed in the series. Maybe not in season 1. Season 1 is a little bit more accurate. Honestly, I feel like Belly doesn't even like Taylor until the very end of the series because she's a little bit annoyed of her. She's very self-centered. She likes to flirt with the boys. She's trying to go after Conrad, and in season 1 we really don't see that as much as we do in the book. But I really love that she was a reoccurring character. Same thing with Steven. Steven is not in the books nearly as much as he is in the show, and him and Taylor are not together in the book, and so I really did enjoy their plot line. And also Taylor's character arc is one that really reminds me of like Brooke Davis on a way lesser scale, but I feel like she really softens up towards the end, and she's just like such a good friend to Belly, and I think it took her a while to get to that point. Now when we get to season 2, the whole premise of that is very different, and there was like a ton of changes that happened in this season, and I will say it is my least favorite out of the 3 because I just feel like there was a lot of filler happening in this season, and maybe there were like little things that were important to the overall character arc and storyline of the entire series, but I found myself being a little bit unsatisfied and not enjoying the changes as much, you could say. I thought the addition of the aunt didn't really make full sense into the plot. I know a lot of people were so mean about Skye added as a character, and from a book perspective, I don't fully understand why Jenny added the aunt and the cousin, but I think just people don't like change and they wanted a scapegoat for that, and I just like, people forget these are real people. They're actors, they are not their own characters. It is wild to see people in the comment section, especially this season, just saying the craziest like things, specifically to Gavin who plays Jeremiah. Like, no wonder that guy's not on social media. He's literally portraying a character and he's doing it so well that you're so angry, and I think that's the point. So same could be said about this character in the second season. I think maybe the reason for adding more of Susanna's family members in was to give us a peek at her personal life and that side of things and show us that Susanna wasn't a perfect person, which we know that, but I think since she passed away, Susanna is held on this pedestal. I feel like she's a lot more complex than is perceived in the show. She's just seen as this like wonderful, beautiful person, and I think she is, but I think because Belly is kind of looking at her as a person without flaws, that like affects a lot of her decisions. So anyways, the addition of those characters in season 2, I didn't really understand it because mainly they're fighting against the dad. So Adam is the one who's preventing them from keeping the house, and so they basically have to convince him by the end of the book to keep the summer house. And there was a lot of scenes in the show that were the same in season 2, but as a whole it's not super memorable, if that makes sense. There wasn't like big moments that I remember besides like Conrad and Belly moments like Christmas, and I really loved seeing their relationship in contrast with when she gets with Jeremiah, although we never see their relationship in real time until this final episode of the entire series, which is so crazy. We see it in the last episode of the first season where they have that very last moment on the beach, the kiss, the end, and then the entire season 2 is all flashbacks, so we don't get to see them in real time being in a relationship. Same thing with season 3, we get the flashbacks, but this was the first time we've seen them together in real time throughout the summer, getting closer and closer, and then we get to Paris. This brings us to season 3, which I thought was the most accurate season out of all of them, and I think that's because it had 11 episodes to tell the story rather than 6 or 8. And I think people forget that shows used to be like 24 episodes, and you would have that whole 24 episode season to build your character arcs, to build your parallels, to build up to the final moment and the resolve of the season, and like the slow burn and everything, and like the fact that people are so upset that Conrad, it took so many episodes for her to like get with Conrad. That's the point. That's literally the point. Every single rom-com, I think Ali Sheehan was talking about this in her video, where every rom-com you see, it's like the big kiss at the end and that's it. Sometimes there's a little epilogue, sometimes there's a little flash forward, but that's what the whole movie is for, to work up to that moment. You rarely see the two people like live out their lives afterward. It's very much implied, and so seeing the end of this season, I was very much like, okay, so that's the end, and I personally was satisfied with that ending, but I think because people like want instant gratification these days, it was like tough for people to like see the struggle, see the yearning, see Belly making the wrong choices over and over again. So some things that were super different in season 3 was the time time jump. So instead of just like a 2-year time jump, we have a 4-year time jump, which is very significant and changes a lot of things. And honestly, it makes the whole engagement wedding plot a little bit more palatable because you're like, okay, they're graduating from college. Like there's tons of people that, you know, get the ring by spring, married right out of college. It's not like super out of the ordinary. But in the books, Belly is 18, turning 19 when she's engaged to Jeremiah, and she's going into her sophomore year of college. And that's why in the book it's so outrageous, and that's why Laurel is so crashing out about this. So I feel like it feels more realistic for them. They've been together for 4 years and they're about to graduate college. A natural next step is to get engaged. Now, are Belly and Jeremiah in the show emotionally mature enough and ready to get married? I think that is up for debate because first of all, they don't have any jobs, they don't have any like income coming in. Never mind all the emotional reasons they shouldn't get married. But yeah, I feel like the 2-year time jump made that whole wedding thing seem so insane, and like everybody was concerned for good reason, and this just like made it feel a little bit different. I kind of understand why Jenny did it because it gave Conrad that time to grow. You know, been 4 years in California, graduated from medical school, he's going to therapy, he's had a lot of time to work on himself, and I think maybe that could be a very solid reason for the time jump. One of the other major things that I feel like changed so much is that Belly did not sleep with Conrad. The whole fireplace season 2 flashback did not happen. They did not do that in the book. So by the time Belly is with Jeremiah, she also has not slept with him at all. When Belly finds out that Jeremiah cheated on her, it hits so much harder and it is like a much bigger deal to her. I mean, it's still a big deal because he still cheated on her in the show, but I feel like because he didn't have that experience with her yet, it hurt more that he jumped ship and then went and slept with somebody else after being with her for 2 years. So I feel like that changed a lot emotionally and it made the whole cheating thing hit harder in the book. And then there was just like a few things that were different. Belly never had a bachelorette party. She didn't get drunk and high. She stayed home with the girls and had like a movie night or something. Only the guys had their bachelor party, but that whole scene with Conrad finding out about Cabo definitely happened. I would say the dialogue in season 3 was like the most on point. Like some of these scenes were just like bar for bar for bar, jaw on the ground. Like I love when Jenny knows which moments are so important to hone in on book specific things and which moments are a little bit more flexible in terms of what the fans of the book really wanted to see. Peach scene, nailed it. Surfboard scene, even better. The only thing that was missing sometimes was the internal dialogue, and we'll get to that. Okay, so I'm just popping in here because there's a few more big plot differences that I forgot to talk about. Conrad's relationship with Agnes is quite different in the book. They actually did date for like 3 months before Conrad realized he was still in love with Belly, and that was the conversation that he had with Agnes in the bar in the show was very similar to when they kind of like broke up, or Agnes like asked Conrad if he was still in love with Belly. That's when he couldn't say no. After that, there's not too much of a mention of Agnes. That's kind of like her only appearance in the book, but I really loved how they brought her back in the show to kind of have someone opposite of Conrad, to have him have a confidant that is not in his inner circle, somebody with an unbiased opinion, kind of giving him advice and helping him navigate through all of this.
Let me see that postcard she sent you.
Agnes?
Oh my God, you keep it in your wallet?
Shut up.
That's it? That's all she wrote?
Doctor, help thyself.
I really love her character. She's a breath of fresh air compared to everybody else in Cousins Beach. And I hope she makes a reappearance in the movie. The whole Laurel and John storyline does not happen in the book. They do not get back together or have any sort of reconciliation like they do in the show. But I kind of did like how they had that in the show because I felt like it gave a nice like juxtaposition to all the other relationships growing apart and then coming back together. And who knows, maybe that storyline is yet to be resolved. The Jeremiah chef arc also does not happen in the book, and I'll go into that a little bit later and why I feel like Jenny had that be his character development. And then another major omission from the show was at the ending, there are parts of the epilogue that Jenny did not include, and that would be Susanna's letter to Belly. We know that she never read it on her wedding day with Jeremiah, but to kind of close out the book, that's basically our epilogue, is Susanna's letter to Belly and Belly's internal thoughts and reactions to this letter. These are all things that I think we are still going to get, but I was expecting a few of them to happen at the end of the show. The other one is the Valentine's Day flashback. That kind of happens before the epilogue, and so I hope that we get that in the movie as well. This is just like a flashback that Belly is having to Valentine's Day, where she's talking about how most boys will get flowers and chocolates, but like to her, Conrad knew her so well. He knew that what she would want more, and that was just time spent together, and he put in the effort to drive all the way to her house, like 5 hours, just to spend quality time together looking at the stars. So I hope we get that. There's a very important scene in the epilogue, and I feel like Jenny is saving that for the movie, and I don't want to give too much away, but it's kind of known as like the rain scene, and it's a flash forward of Belly and her inner thoughts during a very important moment that basically ends out the whole book. But in the ending of the show, the last 3 episodes of Belly in Paris, I'm very glad that Jenny chose to show us everything, because all of that in the book is just implied through Conrad's letters and Belly's kind of inner thoughts. We don't get to see the details of what happened when she was studying abroad, and so I really did like how we got to see all of that and Belly coming into her own. In the book, Conrad does not fly out and go visit her. It's quite a few years until they come back together again, but I really did love seeing Belly in Paris, finding herself and then finding healing and all of that. But with all of these changes that Jenny made from taking the book into a TV show, it's honestly one of the best adaptations I've seen, because usually people that read the book are upset about certain changes, but I feel like all the things that she changed, or at least most of them, I thought improved it. And also we have to remember these books came out in 2009 through 2011, and so times are very different now, and I commend her for kind of being able to take this story that she wrote 12 years ago and make it so relevant and make it so relatable now still. And it's just like a true love story. She draws on all this inspiration from classic films and stories and love triangles that everybody loves, and I think that's why it appeals to such a wide audience. Everybody can find something to relate to in the show. I keep seeing people on the internet being like, I'm 45, why am I so invested in this teenage love triangle show? People are watching it with their whole family. I think there's definitely elements to this story that will always be relevant, and I think Jenny just did that so well. This video is kind of going to be all over the place just because I just went off and wrote a bunch of notes of things that I wanted to talk about. And the next thing I want to talk about is the color theory and the use of color in the show to kind of depict shifting emotions and visually telling a story in a subliminal way that, you know, only like watching it a few times you can lock in on these details. And I think because the Swifties are prepared for this much detail and Easter eggs that we like honed in on these things. What was the most obvious is in the trailer, Jenny uses daylight at first to show the montage of Belly and Jeremiah's relationship, and then the last second it's Conrad, and the lyrics are, I once believed love would be burning red, and then it goes red, so it goes into the song Red, which kind of set the scene and kind of gave us that hint to pay attention to the colors. So if we look at the lyrics of Red by Taylor Swift, we have losing him was blue, missing him was dark gray, loving him was red, and then in Daylight we have I once believed love would be burning red, but it's golden. And so Belly thinks she has found this golden love, but she's kind of forgotten the passion that she has for Conrad and the intense emotions and how she always comes back to it. So again, Jenny being super obvious, we have the promo poster where Belly is in red, which red seems to symbolize Conrad, and Conrad is in blue because he's sad and he doesn't have Belly. And Jeremiah is just there wearing a black shirt. And obviously we know this is a reference to the movie poster from Sabrina, which is one of Belly's favorite movies. We'll talk about those references a little bit later, but Conrad's looking at Belly. Belly is looking straight ahead. Immediately from the trailer and the promo poster, we know we need to pay attention to the colors. Another very prominent Easter egg for the colors was the flowers outside the front door of the summer house. They're all the blue hydrangeas. Slowly, one by one, as Belly is spending more time at the summer house and more time with Conrad, little red flowers start blooming, and there's more and more of them. And so by like episode 7, there's like a big section of red flowers flowers in this bush because she's kind of remembering and falling back in love with Conrad. The other way Jenny uses colors is in the clothing. So much so. There's so much symbolism in the clothing. It's just so crazy. Because for the first half of the season, Belly is wearing a lot of blue when she's with Jeremiah. She's got the blue dress when she goes to the memorial. She's got the white and blue dress when she finds out he cheated on her. Blue seems to be when she is away from Conrad. And then when she finds out Jeremiah cheated on her, she's wearing gray. That can kind of represent missing him was dark gray. At the memorial, we have that parallel with Conrad and Belly from the very first episode, and he sees her for the first time in a long time, and she looks very different, and it's giving that like the summer I turned pretty moment, like again, the same exact feeling that he had when he saw her in season 1. She's got her hair curled and a dress and little heels on, and he's like, I don't recognize her. Then he sees the band-aid on her leg, and then he recognizes her. Same old Belly. And I really, really wish we had more inner dialogue from this scene because we only had Belly's perspective. We didn't get Conrad's perspective. I really wish we had like a dual perspective of the same scene. But I feel like with that, Jenny was trying to keep the cards close to her chest with this and not to reveal too much of their inner thoughts to allude to like a direct ending. Another thing with the clothes is like during the Christmas flashback, she's wearing red pajamas. And we start to notice throughout season 3 that when she's with Jeremiah, she's dressed very much like Susanna in those dresses. Just cutesy, like summer type of dresses. It's almost like she's filling that place for Jeremiah. She's kind of like taking on that role because he never properly healed from losing his mom. He's clung to Belly and she's kind of taking on this role, his protector. You can see in so many of the scenes in the beginning, like she is the one coddling him. She's always the one having to comfort him. On the flip side, whenever we see her with Conrad, he is the one that is kind of like her strong protector. How Belly can afford an entire wardrobe of Reformation dresses on her part-time server salary is beyond me, especially when they're pinching pennies for this backyard wedding. Somebody pointed out on TikTok that when they go look at apartments, she's wearing a green dress, which is kind of disrupting this like red and blue color scheme that we have going on here. And apparently in this like color scale, green is the transition color between red and blue. So it's almost like this is like a transitioning point to Belly kind of leaning more towards her feelings for Conrad and like feeling an internal shift happening. And if we think of Belly as green, the neutral, Conrad is red, and Jeremiah is blue, somebody kind of put together this scale, and I'll show you, between Conrad and Belly is yellow. And as we can see at the end of the show, she's in that yellow dress, and that show the progression of love. And then we call back to that Daylight lyric, love is golden. There's so many instances throughout the season of this color theory happening. I'm sure I'm missing some. Please comment down anything that I'm missing. Let's chat in the comments about all of our Easter eggs, theories, thoughts on everything. When we flash forward to Paris, in Christmas time, Belly is wearing that red sweater. Once again, these geniuses on TikTok that like freeze frame go through the entire episode figured out that the bar that she works out is the English translation of poppies. A poppy is a red flower. Coincidentally, when we have the scene with Denise and Jeremiah on the couch, Denise is wearing a red sweater as well, and the painting on the wall is red poppies. And so that was our first indication that there might be something between Denise and Jeremiah. And as far as their plot line, I kind of called it from the beginning because even though Denise is like not really a character in the book at all, technically Denise is the secretary planning Jeremiah and Belly's wedding. She is not involved in any other capacity. I really like the addition of her character as another person to kind of play off of and someone to challenge Jeremiah. And like I knew that they needed to like break up Taylor and Steven and have them come back together at some point. And so I thought I really like her character a lot, and I think she's like exactly what Jeremiah needs in that she like calls him out, she challenges him while Belly is the one coddling him and not like expecting anything from him essentially. Also in like I think it was like this second or third episode, Jeremiah is like checking her out, which red flag first of all, but I feel like as soon as I saw that I was like, oh, that's gonna be something later on, just keeping an eye on it. And when Belly's with Conrad, in contrast to Jeremiah, she dresses more like herself. She's wearing her cutoff jean shorts, she's wearing her cutesy little top, and it's definitely kind of a callback to Susanna because in that episode where her and Laurel go out to the bar, she's wearing a very, very similar outfit that Belly wears in the Peach Scene episode. And so she's embodying kind of like the fun side of Susanna and the like heart and the spirit of who she is. Meanwhile, when she's with Jeremiah, she's portraying being the more like proper, made up facade version of Susanna, which I thought was a very interesting parallel for Jenny to draw. And then when we get to the last episode where Conrad shows up in Paris, she goes up to her room and she puts on more lipstick, and it's red lipstick. I feel like the reapplying of the red lipstick is a very important detail. She sits down while she's like crashing out in her room. Next to her is the closet of all of the clothes that represent different Conrad and Belly moments throughout the season, which I was like that detail is just like perfect. It's so perfect in every way. It's like so visually there how many times throughout that summer that they connected and that, you know, they fell more in love with each other. We have the peach scene shirt, we have the shirt from the surfing accident, big t-shirt from the guest room scene, and I'm pretty sure the dark gray shirt is the cousin's rowing shirt. And so literally we have a physical depiction of all their intimate moments throughout the entire season sitting right there, and she's contemplating, what do I do? And the fact that she gets up and decides to take Conrad around, it's like she almost unconsciously made the decision to choose him, essentially. And then we have the thing with the silver versus gold jewelry, where all the jewelry Jeremiah gets her is gold and Belly wears silver jewelry, and he doesn't really know that, but like she's the kind of girl that wouldn't like correct him. You know what I mean? Like she might prefer silver, but because he gave it to her, she wears it and she loves it. Whereas Conrad knew that, and that's why he got her the silver infinity necklace. And so that is something to take note of, because then when Conrad goes to give Jeremiah the letter from Susanna, she literally writes in there, remember what type of jewelry a girl wears. Remember the little things. Does she wear silver or gold? And I don't know if Jeremiah picked up on that when he was crying. Maybe he was just like too upset about it, but like Conrad knew that, and he like she didn't even have to tell him, you know? So anyways, the color theory is like literally so important throughout the entire season. Moving on to our next thing, which is the music and how it is used to tell the story and how important it is to this show. And I will say it's just such a huge part of it, because I feel like a song can like make a scene, you know? It makes it hit so much harder if it's the right song, and I think Jenny knew that, and she just like knocked it out of the park with this one. It's also just such a great mix of songs that we know and love in the songs that are popular right now, like Taylor Swift, Sabrina Carpenter, Olivia Rodrigo, Gracie Abrams, Ariana Grande. Like these are all songs that we hear and we like really connect with right now, but there's also a great mix of like old songs and classic music. And so the fact that she uses music from all generations to tell the story, I think is part of the reason why it appeals to such a large audience, because I'll be sitting there with my mom and I'm singing like, you know, Taylor Swift song, and then all of a sudden there's a song that comes on that I don't know, and then she's singing it and I'm like, how do you know this song? What song is this? And it's a song, you know, from earlier on. I'm not gonna say it's an old song, but we have the Beatles, Billy Joel, the Rolling Stones, Stevie Wonder, Fleetwood Mac. We have Landslide, literally such a big moment in the show. Like, oh, that one was so good. But starting off with You're Losing Me in the very first episode, I called that. I'll insert the clip here, but like, oh my gosh. And
Tell them
so
what song you guessed.
What did
you
I
said
guess?
You're Losing Me.
Oh, You're Losing Me. I just knew they were gonna use this because it just makes so much sense, and that's just like how I felt like Belly was feeling when she found out that Jeremiah cheated on her. Her heart literally stops beating, and we don't get another Taylor Swift song until Belly starts feeling like herself again, which is so crazy. It took like 6 episodes to get back there. The drought was the very worst, I'll say. But she lost her dialogue. So Jenny uses kind of like different songs and different artists to kind of peek into her character's minds. So you think about Belly, she's listening to a lot of Taylor Swift songs and she's relating to them. This is what you would imagine you would listen to if you were in this situation. And so, you know, imagine Belly crying with her earphones in. Like, she's listening to Lacey, she's listening to You're Losing Me. And then fast forward and we've got Conrad, which he's got a very classic music taste. Like in that Peach scene, we've got the Rolling Stones song that was just like so perfect. We've got Cherry by Harry Styles. So yeah, I think the songs mirror the perspective of these characters. And I love when we hear the song and then the scene kind of cuts and they take their earbud out and it's like, we were in their head. I just love that so much. But yeah, we lost the Taylor Swift songs for a while because Belly lost herself and she lost her own voice. Like, she didn't know how to think for herself when she was with Jeremiah. So going through all the Taylor Swift songs we had this season, because I am a Swiftie and I must talk about it, because a lot of these songs, like, I did not not see coming. I definitely thought LOML. Like, I definitely called that one just because, like, I feel like that's so them. What I didn't expect was False God Part 2. I totally thought Guilty as Sin was gonna be the song for that, but honestly, Jenny knows best. I'll say it and I'll say it again. That one was way more impactful because it kind of brought us back to that moment where they almost crossed the line in season 1. Belly is starting to feel how she felt then, and I think that was like an all-encompassing scene. And you can hear her heartbeat returning. That scene is just literally perfect. That was like my second favorite behind the usage of dress, which we'll get to. Robin, didn't see that one coming. That one was a deep cut because if you asked anybody, I would say most Swifties, they would rank Robin as like last on their Tortured Poets ranking, but I love that song. I love that song so much, and this is exactly the context of what I think about this song, where it's like just like young innocence. Conrad was just always looking after Belly, and she didn't even know. She was just so unaware that he was like always looking out for her best interest. And then, you know, she just twisted the knife with LOML at the end of that. Like, oh, that episode was wild. I really liked it though. That was an insane episode. Belly crossed in the club, making her own Conrad edit in her head to We Can't Be Friends by Ariana Grande.
And I'll be alright. We can't be friends.
A moment. But every single lyric from LOML, who's gonna stop us from waltzing back into rekindled flames if we know the steps anyways? That just describes the entire summer. And like when she's like having a panic attack in the bathroom, she's kind of realizing like, oh, she lost everything. She lost what she thought was her future, but she's blaming it on being not in her right mind. And then the next day she kind of flips and she's like, that was just because I was like drunk in the bathroom and I was just emotional. And you know, and I'm excited to marry Jeremiah. Okay. And then we get Us, which is Gracie Abrams featuring Taylor Swift. I would have thought Jenny would have used a different song from The Secret of Us because I feel like there's a lot of songs on that album, maybe like I Love You, I'm Sorry. The Secret of Us, just that lyric, kind of makes sense because Conrad and Belly kind of know what's going on, but nobody else knows what's going on. Belly's pretending like she doesn't know what's going on between her and Conrad, but she's just kind of like faced with the truth. And then we've got our very last song of the Calling Off the Wedding episode, which is Belly hopping in a cab with nothing other than her wedding dress and her cheap ass ring, her air tag, and like 10 bathing suits. Probably. She packed this from the beach house. How she has enough clothes to like make it in Paris through the winter, I don't know. It was a very much I'll figure it out when I get there situation, and the fact that she just showed up to the airport and asked for the next flight to Paris is beyond me. But Cardigan was an unexpected, perfect song for this scenario. There's so many lyrics in there that kind of resonate with Belly. When you're young, they assume you know nothing, and that was basically her all summer trying to convince everybody she was grown enough to get married. And then the last lyric, I knew you'd come back to me, and Conrad is sitting right there. Literally get chills.
I knew you'd come back to me, and you'd come back to me, and you'd come back.
I screamed at that scene. And then we have You're on Your Own Kid, which does no one else to lean on. This is the first time that she doesn't have anyone to bail her out, and it's very much, you know, time to hit rock bottom before things can go back up. And then we end the episode with How Did It End? Somehow she has a more positive outlook than the lyrics suggest. She looks up at the Notre Dame and realizes everything's gonna be okay. This song, How Did It End, is so bar for bar. Like, didn't you hear they called it all off? The wedding, like everything, and like everybody wants to know, and like how did it end? And oh my gosh, it's happening again. Belly can't make up her mind, but now she's in Paris and it doesn't matter anymore. And then we have the montage, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, which is Belly trying to pick herself back up, trying to like push through, find her groove in Paris. Pretty self-explanatory. The one I didn't expect was the song The One. Again, another perfect choice by Jenny when they're literally like writing letters to each other, and it's kind of like both kind of perspectives. And I love that they had Conrad's voice reading the letter. In my defense, I have none for digging up the grave another time. They're not dead yet. They're not dead. And that brings us to our final episode where we had Dress and Out of the Woods. There was no other song that was meant for that scene other than Dress. I don't think there could have been a single other song that fit that scene so perfectly. Like, oh my god. Like, that's so them. Do it, do it, do it, do it. Yeah. I'm gonna cry.
Our secret moments, you gotta know.
I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. Holy shit, holy shit. Our secret moments in a crowded room. like they have no idea about me and you. It's like they've been apart for so long and they haven't been together in like 5 years, and so the buildup is insane, and it's just like makes so much sense where it's like the pining, the anticipation, like very much like yearning. Like Conrad has been yearning for so many years and he's finally getting his moment to shine. And I won't go too into depth for that scene. I'll just say like all of the intimate scenes in the show are very tasteful. They're not too much and they're not for no reason. I feel like they're very meaningful and to portray a certain emotion or parallel or feeling. It was a lot, trust me. Like this scene was crazy. And then the moment that I heard Out of the Woods, I was like, oh my god, because again, like I feel like throughout this entire series it would be like I'm guessing it's gonna be this song, and then Jenny picks a song that's even better that I never even thought of, which was Out of the Woods. And this whole song, every single lyric is them. Your necklace hanging from my neck the night we couldn't quite forget. Last December is like their month. We were built to fall apart and fall back together. Their whole relationship is like, are we out of the woods yet? Are we gonna make it? We keep missing each other. Like nothing keeps, it just, the timing's not right. Are we in the clear yet? And then the build up, the bridge. I loved that part, and her running. It reminded me a lot of the actual Out of the Woods music video where Taylor is like running towards like finding herself. That's literally what the entire music video is about. And now that Belly has found herself, she can now run towards Conrad. And that final part where it says, are we in the clear yet? Good. Bam. Leads us to our final scene. Literally perfect song. Anyways, I could talk forever about how much the Taylor Swift songs added to this, and people got super annoyed with how many Taylor Swift songs were in it, but okay, she writes good songs. She has amazing lyrics. What do you want from her? It's not her fault she's written a song for every single emotion under the sun, but I'll say half the season was other songs. There was so many good, there was so many. I'm gonna show you guys my other songs that I really loved. Haley's Comet by Billie Eilish, so good. Cherry by Harry Styles, love that. Don't You Call Him Baby. Making the Bed by Olivia Rodrigo is so Belly. She made her bed, like she messed everything up. Skinny Love, Bon Iver version. Every time Phoebe Bridgers opens her mouth on this show, tears. So good. It's always at the perfect time. And I love the parallel of ending season 1 with Funeral, such a sad song, and like ending the 3rd season with Phoebe Bridgers in a song that's more nostalgic and not so sad, but more like wistful. When the Party's Over, another musical parallel. That first season where her and Conrad are out on the dock and she rejects him and gives him back the necklace. And then after the fight on the beach in the 3rd season where Conrad confesses his love, we have a different version of that song. It's a cover, but for these really important scenes between them, a lot of emotional buildup. It's like Jenny wants us to recall when the first time this feeling kind of happened, and it's like it plays a lot to be like, oh, I'm supposed to be feeling like this during this scene. This calls back to this for a reason. The sign of the times to end out the second to last episode. Oh my god, welcome to the final show. Welcome to the final show. It was the perfect transition for the last episode. And I loved Everywhere Everything, Noah Kahan, Gracie Abrams. Like, you know what? Steven and Taylor, they can have that song. It was so good. And I loved the very last line cut to Conrad and Belly in Paris. And I feel like that was an intentional juxtaposition. Like Steven and Taylor are so in love. And the last line, Everywhere Everything. And then it's like Conrad and Belly. So I am filming this on a different day because the sun was going down when I was initially filming this video, but I still have a lot to say. So the next thing I want to talk about is the parallels throughout the whole series. There's so many callbacks to the previous seasons visually, and it's super intentional because Jenny is trying to focus in on the feeling you first felt initially, and when she's mirroring that in the 3rd season, she wants you to recall the feeling in those moments. So for example, the first initial one is when Belly sees Conrad for the first time in season 1, and then in season 3 we have the same moment where Conrad shows up to the memorial and it's got that slow-mo eyes meeting moment. In season 3, whenever Conrad is recalling a memory with Belly, it's almost like a warmer toned visual, and so that initial scene where he sees Belly, as Conrad remembers it, it's like a warm and bright memory. It's like golden. And as season 3 goes on, Belly starts to have those memories runways that have that gold glow to them as well. We have that initial pool scene where they're outside and Conrad is sitting in the edge of the pool and Belly swimming in the pool. We have quite a few scenes of that happening, and that always kind of represents a very tension-filled moment, almost like a secret rendezvous.
You said marijuana messes with white matter.
Do you memorize every single thing that I've ever said?
Get over yourself.
When you swim, I don't think you'd notice if the house was on fire.
And then the callback from season 3 to this scene in season 1 where Conrad says to Belly, do you memorize everything I've ever said? And she takes that as kind of an insult, obviously. And then we get to season 3 in Paris, and now Belly is saying that to Conrad.
I thought you said marijuana messes with white matter.
Do you memorize every little thing I've ever said?
Yes.
Do you memorize everything I've ever said? And he says yes. And I feel like that arc, oh, it was so good. That is not in the book. And so that was something that Jenny added that I loved, that parallel. There's a lot of parallels with them driving in the car, Belly sticking her head out the window in the very first scene of the show. And then also the very last scene of the show with Conrad. The fights on the beach, every time they have an emotionally charged moment where they're confessing things, it's always on the beach, which is very intentional because all of her scenes with Jeremiah are in the pool. It's controlled, it's safe, it's predictable. Whenever she's going at it with Conrad, it's on the beach where it's the ocean, and the ocean is this big vast unknown and you can't control it, and the waves and everything. So it makes sense that we always see Conrad and Belly meeting on the beach and talking on the beach. So that is kind of like their place associated with their relationship, like Snow on the Beach when they went to the beach house at Christmas. And with Jeremiah, all of the moments with him happen in the pool. And the progression of their scenes on the beach is so important because in the first season, we have their big moment at the very end where Conrad confesses that he wants Belly, they kiss, and it's like this culmination where Belly finally gets what she's always wanted with Conrad. And then in season 2, we have them fighting on the beach and Conrad is saying, I thought you knew that I loved you. He didn't say it, but he said, I thought you knew. They're just in this huge miscommunication there. And then the third time in the third season, Conrad is fully confessing his love for Belly, saying, I'm in love with you, don't marry him, fully proclaiming all of his feelings for Belly, and she is the one rejecting him. So we go from I do want you, I thought you knew, I'm in love with you, and then when we get the letters in Paris, Conrad says, let me be so clear that I am always thinking about you. So in this progression, we see how Conrad gains more confidence in his feelings for Belly, and you know, once that guy says it out loud, he can't stop saying it, and it's like a weight was lifted off his shoulders. So I feel like that arc and that parallel was like so important to the progression of their emotional maturity. But truly that last episode was filled with parallels, specifically between Belly and Conrad. We have her ruffling his hair before they go out to dinner, which happens in the very first episode when Conrad ruffles Belly's hair. Like I said, the head out the window scene, them dancing by the sun in Paris, compared with them dancing at prom, compared with them dancing at the Deb ball. And they're very good at visually capturing these scenes in the very same angle that they first were. And then of course we have Christmas and all the different times that they were at the cousin's house during Christmas time. The fact that we end on them having Christmas in Paris together and she's in the red pajamas, just the cherry on top. If you can think of any more parallels, please comment them down below. But I wanted to talk about some character development. So for Conrad, I feel like we can see the biggest change in him amongst any of them over the course of 3 seasons. In season 1, he's a sad boy, he's brooding, he is self-sabotaging and giving into his vices, and he's very emotionally not able to care for Belly in the way that he should be. In season 2, he seems very bitter and angry and very sassy. He has so many like hilarious one-liners in season 2.
I don't care. You suck. Yeah, have fun with that. The bitch is here. What the fuck, Julia? I'm not talking to her. I don't care. Connie, don't you go spend some time with mom? Why do you even care? I don't. Relax, you big fucking baby. You know what else my mom loved? The beach house. I would love to hear your plan, Isabel.
He's very much like, I don't give a shit. I am trying to heal, but it's like kind of like his messy era, if you will. And towards the end of season 2, we can kind of see him turning a new leaf, and he's like getting the confidence up to confess his feelings for Belly and kind of like ask for her back. And he is met with her kissing Jeremiah, and that completely shuts him down, and he retreats back into his like self-sabotage mode where he puts up this harsh wall to kind of protect himself. And then we get to season 3 and we see him in therapy. He's in medical school. He's doing better than he ever has, really trying to show up for people that he has let down in the past. And we can see that when he calls the hospital to help Steven get that special doctor. He is there for Belly the entire summer, and he really does try his best to like do the right thing throughout the season, but towards the end he just cannot help but follow his heart, which is something season 1 and 2 Conrad wouldn't do. Like, he was never selfish, and this was his one moment of being selfish, and everybody was so mad at him. You know, understandably, because he broke up the wedding and he probably should have done it sooner than later, but the one time he is selfish and chasing his own happiness, everybody's like so up in arms about it. He is someone who didn't know how to express his emotions, and it just always came out wrong. Like, in season 1, we can see in hindsight how he was trying to like flirt with Belly and trying to show interest, but it's like he didn't know how, and he was awkward. And even though he knew Belly like kind of had a crush on him, he was so insecure and knew that he was a damaged person and he didn't want to bring her down with him. So in season 3, even though some of his actions may come across as selfish, it's only because he never uses other people's mistakes to justify his own actions. Not once does he bring up Jeremiah cheating on Belly as a reason that he is breaking up the wedding. When everybody asks him, like Steven, he didn't tell Steven that Jeremiah cheated in Cabo. He didn't tell his dad that Jer cheated in Cabo. He didn't give them all the reasons Jeremiah shouldn't be with Belly. He is just telling them why he wants to be with Belly and that he loves Belly. So he's not somebody that makes excuses for why he's doing what he's doing. Because he could very easily like throw his brother under the bus to get his way, but he knows that that wouldn't be the right way to go about it. On the other side of this, Belly had her own issues with her own insecurity because she could not conceptualize that Conrad could ever have feelings for her. She is not perceiving his advances as that he's interested, because for so long she thought he would never have feelings for her. So she truly wasn't picking up on any of it. And that's why he says, I thought you knew, because he was showing her how he felt about her. Even though he didn't say it, his actions very much did, which I know love is not implied, like you need to actually say it out loud, but because Belly never heard him say it out loud, she couldn't truly believe it. And also in hindsight, we kind of realized that Belly is an unreliable narrator. What we see of Conrad is how Belly perceives him and his actions, even though that might not be what his intentions were. And we really get to see that in season 3, because getting his perspective in episode 5, we get a peek into his inner thoughts and his intentions with everything. In all of the childhood flashbacks, we see that it's Conrad helping Belly, Conrad being there for Belly, even though over the whole season everyone said Jeremiah was always Belly's best friend and they were always best friends and he was always like the closest one to her. Meanwhile, Conrad is the one truly always looking out for her best interest. There's multiple examples of Steven and Jeremiah like teasing Belly or bullying her, and it's always Conrad that kind of like comes to her aid. Now, we don't see this entirely in the books, but I really like how Jenny portrayed it in the show with these cute little flashbacks. So on my Instagram, I had people submit all of their unpopular opinions, their thoughts, their reactions, and predictions for the movie, just anything for the entire series. So I'll bring them up as they are relevant, but next I wanted to talk about Belly and why people seem to have such strong opinions about her and why people are so upset with her and really hate her for her decisions. This person said, I needed more lingering yearning from Belly's side. And I totally get that, because in the books, we hear so much more of that and more of Belly's inner thoughts than we do in season 3. The reason for that, I think, is that Jenny, again, wanted to keep the cards close to her chest. She didn't want to give away too much of Belly's thoughts, because once we figured out Belly was truly thinking about Conrad in that way, it felt like it would just be like too obvious what was going to happen. But there are a few really important inner dialogue lines that I really wanted to see, specifically during the peach scene. When Conrad wipes her mouth with his shirt, she says, I think that's the most intimate thing anyone has ever done to me. girl, you're getting married. And that's the most intimate thing. Your fiance's brother, who's also your ex, and you're saying that about him. That was an important line that everybody, like, I feel like that would have been so shocking for the audience to hear that from Belly's perspective. I feel like we got some of that with the surfboard scene when Conrad leaves and she's sitting there like clutching her chest and like breathing so heavy. She says like, oh my gosh, what did I almost do? This time it was all me.
Belly.
What just happened? What did I almost do? This time wasn't like with the peaches. This time, it was all me.
That was very important dialogue for the audience to know. The other really important scene that we don't get Belly's inner dialogue is the fight on the beach. There's so much missing from that, and Belly just looks like a stone cold. Like, so many people were upset about that scene, but the inner dialogue is like she herself is going through with the wedding, even though she's second guessing it in her head right then. And there's a line that she says, part of me feels like I could just run away with him right now. She like let herself think that, but we didn't know that in the show. And then when she says that final line, like, we were never anything, in her brain she's saying like, I need to get this right because I need him to let me go. She doesn't mean it, but she knows that if he hears that, it would be the end for him. So I feel like we were missing Belly's inner thoughts in that moment. But for Belly as a character, we must remember in the first season, she's literally 15 and 16. She is not emotionally mature yet at all. And she's experiencing all these things for the first time, and it's exciting, and she's going to make mistakes. Okay, we can have grace for her. Yeah, she thought she liked Jeremiah, but then she went and kissed Conrad, and you know what? The heart wants what it wants. Okay. Now in season 2, she's still only like 16, 17, and so at that age, you are not thinking logically. She's trying to do the right thing. She doesn't know whether to hold back or go for it. She feels incredibly hurt by Conrad at prom, and because she felt so strongly for Conrad, and that's why that 6-month relationship with Conrad almost hurt more than when she found out Jeremiah cheated on her, because she cared more about Conrad, and that's why he hurt her more. Whereas with Jeremiah, she didn't feel as intensely as she did with Conrad, because she held Conrad up on this pedestal, and when he disappointed her, it was a crushing experience. So a lot of people were very upset with Belly, like, okay, you can forgive Jeremiah for cheating on you with somebody, but you can't forgive Conrad for being depressed that his mom died. Like, it didn't seem like a level playing field in that way. And it's funny because I feel like we're all upset with Belly. We're screaming at the TV like, no, what are you doing? But imagine everybody watching your life from the outside. I'm sure there are times when the audience would be screaming at you, don't do that. Like, that's not the right decision, you know? So I feel like people need to give Belly more grace, because you who without sin cast the first stone. That's all I'm saying. Someone submitted this from Instagram. I kind of like that Belly is being messy because I think it's a normal reaction in her situation. Yeah, it's like, it's not realistic, you know what I mean, to like have her make the right choices all the time. We're watching her make mistakes and then learn from them and find herself in the process. And so that's why it was like essential for her to go to Paris to find who she is without cousins and her family and everyone telling her what to do, what she shouldn't do. The first true time that she is forced to be independent, look after herself. And I love the symbolism that was put into this Paris situation, because literally she shows up with all of her baggage to Paris. She brings it all with her, the wedding dress, the ring. When her bag gets stolen, she's literally chasing herself around Paris trying to find herself. So it was a very direct parallel to Belly's internal journey. And then our very last scene, when Belly is wearing like the same outfit, we have a white top and jeans, she is running to the train station with no baggage, literally nothing with her, running towards Conrad. That visual is so powerful. Like, she does not care about anything else in the world besides chasing what she's truly always wanted now that she has found herself. And another parallel that can be drawn is when she finds out that Jeremiah cheated, she's running away from him, and we see the slow-mo of her running, crying, and then we see in the last episode her running to Conrad once she has found herself. Oh, so good. Then of course we have the birthday parallel parallel where every birthday she wished for Conrad, and then the very last episode, he is right there in front of the cake when she blows out the candles. And that's kind of when Conrad taught her about infinity as a kid, where he did the syrup with the infinity sign. And so it was a very full circle moment, and I feel like that might have been the moment that clicked for Belly. So I want to talk about the rise and fall of Jeremiah a little bit, because I feel like he gets a lot of shit, especially this season, and I'm not like too fond of his character at all, but I do feel like he gets a lot more hate than he should, because again, we have to remember he also lost his mom, and he is also grieving in a different way than Conrad is, because he jumped into this relationship with Belly a few months after his mom passed away. He never had to deal with it because he just attached himself to her, and she kind of took on that emotional support for him. So he himself doesn't even know who he is without Belly, which is why it was so difficult for him to call off the wedding, because he truly just didn't know. He was so lost. And I feel like this layer of grief affected every relationship in the show. How Belly was dealing with it, how Conrad was dealing with it differently, Jeremiah, they all had a different way of dealing with the grief, and that caused a lot of right person, wrong time moments. So in a way, his relationship with Belly was very much a crutch to his healing process, and it really slowed it down. So in contrast with Conrad, who's had 4 years to go to therapy, deal with everything, his feelings, Jeremiah hasn't gone through that process yet. So we kind of have to give him grace there. Does that justify all of his actions? No, not at all. I feel like he blames a lot of his shortcomings on different people and circumstances, like his dad not being proud of him, or Conrad for always like ruining his life and whatever. He never stops to look at himself in the mirror and figure out what he needs to fix about himself. Throughout this season, we do see he has kind of like a wandering eye. He checks out Denise, which I always thought was kind of icky. And then when he talks about Belly's friends, he's like, oh, Annika's hot. You should go for her, Conrad.
She's the only other person that's smarter than you and Steven, and she's as hot as Taylor, so I don't know what his problem is.
Her friend, Annika, is hot. She's single.
There's no point, dude. I'm going back to California.
Well, that's exactly the point.
Just the way that he would talk about other girls that weren't Belly was a bit of a red flag. I feel like there's two sides to Jeremiah. There's the golden retriever, happy-go-lucky, energetic side of him that really comes out mostly in the first 2 seasons. And then there's the kind of evil side where he's very resentful of his brother, his dad. That side completely takes over in this 3rd season because he feels neglected, but he doesn't take responsibility for his own part in it, you know? He's the one that cheated on Belly. He's always acting like he's won some sort of contest by being with Belly, and that always rubbed Conrad the wrong way. So I feel like what I really needed in season 3 is like Jeremiah taking responsibility for his own actions and maybe like apologizing, because I feel like all of his apologies were not super genuine. I mean, he literally cheated on Belly and his apology was proposing to her. What? That's not taking responsibility for your actions. That's trying to like cover them up. I kind of needed to see more character development from him in the moral aspect, being a little bit more selfless, being a little bit more understanding. But I think Denise hit it on the head. She said, you're obsessed with him. You're obsessed with Conrad because you can't stop talking about him. And so I thought her as a character was good to kind of like knock Jeremiah down a few pegs. And I feel like that relationship kind of made sense to me because she's such a strong-willed person that could challenge him, not coddle him. But we do have to remember he's a 21-year-old guy, a frat guy. Like, how much can you expect, you know? And Jenny continuously shows us throughout the show that we can't hold these characters to their past mistakes. And also Jeremiah being like 2 years younger than Conrad, he hasn't quite had the time to go through that character transformation. And then we have Chef Jeremiah, which people think came out of left field, but I recently watched the first episode over again and I didn't even realize it. This was something that felt like it came out of nowhere, but then when you watch these episodes, you're like, oh, he was always interested in food and cooking, because the very first episode he's yelling at Steven like, don't break the yolks on the eggs, or like he's always having an opinion about the food.
Do we really have to physically sit for our portraits? Can't she just like look at a picture on her phone or something? My hangover smoothie, it cures all. This is a delicate science and your heavy breathing is gonna break the yolk.
Okay. That I'm doing 5 different things at once? Yeah, probably.
Okay, Just keep stirring, please. I have not stopped. Clockwise is better.
I kind of liked that Jenny gave him some kind of storyline in that way, some kind of resolution for him finding what he is passionate about that has kind of always been there all along. But this is not what happens in the books. There is no mention of him cooking. Actually, Conrad is the one that is a good cook in the books, which is funny. Now I wanted to go through some of the classic films and shows and rom-coms that Jenny drew these scene parallels from. And again, I feel like that's why this show resonates so much, is that she pulls on all of these classic love stories to kind of Easter egg in the show. The first one I have is The Notebook. We know so many scenes of Belly and Conrad are reminding us of The Notebook. The scene where they're lying in the street on the ground, them at Christmas time, Conrad on the roof, him standing outside the house, them at the kitchen table. There's just so many little parallels there that remind us that Belly and Conrad's connection is timeless. In season 2, we had this iconic moment of Conrad throwing the basketball and he's like not looking, he's looking at Belly and he scores, and that is like straight from One Tree Hill, and I caught that right away. An iconic scene. Then we have the movie Sabrina that is referenced throughout all 3 seasons. In season 1, that's the movie that she goes to see with Cam Cameron at the drive-in. She has the poster on her bedroom wall, and then in season 3, literally the movie poster is a reflection of that same movie poster. And again, it's a story of a love triangle between 2 brothers. And then in Paris, Belly gets the apartment with a view of the Sacré-Cœur, just like Sabrina. The end scene with the train, and Belly goes, "Is this seat taken?" It's very much reminiscent of Crazy Rich Asians, where he gets on the plane, declares his love, the whole thing.
Oh, coming through. Sorry.
But I...
Rachel True, will you marry me?
Is this seat taken? Conrad, I choose you.
So I loved that nod. Gossip Girl with Chuck and Blair. The taxi scene, which I won't include here because I don't want this video to be demonetized. And then also the scene with Chuck saying, "Don't marry him, be with me." Same thing with Conrad.
Well, what I need is for you to...
Don't marry him.
Chuck,
Don't marry him.
don't say it.
Don't be with him. Don't marry him. Be with me.
And then we have Jenny's other projects, To All the Boys and XO Kitty. There's always the scene where the main protagonist girl is on the ground and the boy leans his head over and is like, "Are you okay?" So that happens in all 3 of her installments, which I love that. I love that she Easter eggs her own shows. We have Bye Bye Birdie, which is Belly's favorite play, musical. She's got the poster on her wall in college. We have the flashback of her as a kid loving to watch the movie with her mom. Obviously the main character's name is Conrad. She used to sing to the mirror that she loves Conrad. And then we have Casablanca, which Belly and Conrad watch during Christmas time. And then in season 3, Conrad and Agnes are chatting in the Casablanca coffee shop, which I thought was an interesting little parallel. And there's probably so many more that I'm missing, but Jenny, you're a genius, a genius. So talking about the ending, I didn't envision it ending that way, but I wasn't mad at it, you know? I love that we got our moment with Belly and Conrad on the train. That was so good. Does not happen in the books. Loved that addition. And as soon as they slow zoomed out of the summer house, I was like, oh my god, is this the end? And it ended in such a way that most of those like feel-good rom-com coming of age movies do, where it's like that slow zoom out. And it reminded me exactly like my favorite movie of all time, Flipped. Exactly the same thing, where the main 2 characters, you know, finally like get together. There's a slow zoom out and you're just supposed to kind of imagine what the future is supposed to look like. And so if that was the ending, I would have been okay with it. Did I really want to see the wedding? Yes. And thankfully, I think we're gonna get that. But I kind of felt like I knew it wasn't over because there's no way Jenny would just completely cut out that whole part of the epilogue. So for the last 5 minutes, I'm going to just read some of the submissions from my Instagram and kind of like react to them. So this one has, "I was over Conrad yearning so much at the end." I will say it was so painful. Like the whole season, I felt like I have not been this emotional about a show in so long, and it was very much a slow burn. But like I have said before, I feel like people these days just want the instant gratification of the couple they're shipping to get together, and that usually doesn't happen in most shows, at least the classic ones like One Tree Hill, Gossip Girl, Gilmore Girls. Like, there's so many classic shows that are so good that take seasons for couples to get together, and I would say 3 seasons, honestly, on the shorter side of the slow burn, I will say. But I love yearning Conrad. I love him so much. I could watch him yearn forever, truly. This one says, I'm excited for the movie, but honestly happy with the ending they gave us. I kind of have the same feelings there. Out of the Woods was an amazing song choice. The lyrics and their story are so linked. Like I said earlier, literally couldn't be more perfect, although I didn't even think of that song. Steven was a hypocrite in season 3 and had character digression, example with the cheating. That is interesting. I did not really like that storyline of Steven and Taylor cheating on their significant others. I didn't think that needed to happen. Yeah, I felt like that kind of changed their character for me and kind of made me feel icky about that, especially because Taylor ended up finding out about Jeremiah cheating and she condemned that but was still cheating on her boyfriend. I just didn't like that whole thing. As far as a character digression, I feel like Taylor actually had a good character arc minus the cheating because she became such a better friend to Belly in season 3 than the previous couple seasons. Steven, he was kind of messy this season. I don't know. I'm glad that him and Taylor got together in the end though. Conrad is better for Belly, but Jer is a better person. Disagree. And you know what? People get so mad because someone else said, what is somebody else? Jenny Han intentionally villainized and ruins Jeremiah's character to make Conrad the better option. I disagree, and I feel like the book Jeremiah is less likable. Like, I feel like he's worse in the books because of the whole like cheating on Belly thing when they had never slept together before. It just made it worse, and there's a few other things that made me not like him even more in the book than in the show, although in the show he's pretty bad. But every time Conrad acts a certain way, it's out of the best interest for somebody else. Like, he's always putting other people's happiness before his own. He literally went to Laurel and begged her to go to Belly's bridal shower. Even though he did not want them to get married, he knew that Belly needed her mom, and so that was like such a selfless act. And when you look at Jeremiah, all of his acts towards Belly seem selfish. You know what I mean? Like, just proposing so she would forgive him, and telling her not to go to Paris, not helping her out with the wedding planning, wanting to spend $700 on a cake when he barely even had a job. And Conrad drove her all around even though it was like killing him inside. Yeah, there's just a lot of instances of Conrad putting other people first. When he knew about his mom's cancer and didn't want to tell anyone and carrying the burden all on his own. So I do think overall Conrad is a better person than Jeremiah, for sure. But Jeremiah, he hasn't gone through character development and healing yet. Need to find myself a Conrad. Same. Let me know what you find. Just so grateful for the weekly memes and convos in the online community we had this season. Honestly, that's one of the best things to come out of season 3. Like, it felt like the Super Bowl. Every Wednesday we were all so sad, and it's just always so great that every once in a while there's something that happens in pop culture that kind of brings us all together, and it truly feels like one big inside joke, and I just really did love the community of all of it, and I hope that continues. I'm Team Benito. I feel like you might be alone on that one. There might be some Benito stands, but he was always just supposed to be a rebound / fling to kind of help Belly grow and learn what it would be like to be with literally anyone else besides somebody with the last name Fisher. So I feel like she definitely needed that experience to date other people to confirm how she felt about Conrad, if that makes sense. Didn't like the way Benito was talking to my Connie baby though. He needed to know his place. Before watching the show, I saw everyone hating on Belly and Jer, but after watching, I feel empathy. That is interesting. Yeah, I feel like the online discourse is like they're just like messy and like don't know what the hell they're doing, which is true. Honestly, I felt like they were acting purely emotional in their decision. They were both just hurting, and I just feel like you can't fault people. You know what I mean? Like, we all make mistakes. We all do things because we feel super emotional about it. I do feel bad for Jeremiah because, you know, he's had to deal with being compared to Conrad and he feels overlooked, but sometimes you have to kind of like stop your pity party and just see where you need to make improvements in your life. But yeah, I did feel a lot of empathy because Belly truly was trying to do the right thing by seeing it through. She was going to marry Jeremiah if he didn't call off the wedding. She was made a decision and she was trying to stick to it, so she was trying to do the right thing, but in the end, she just couldn't. Conrad was better in the books. Honestly, the show, this specific season 3, made me love Conrad even more, especially episode 5. Like, yeah. It felt reminiscent of the old shows like One Tree Hill in the best way. I agree. I just feel like romance is so back, like good old-fashioned love triangles, messy characters, summer love, everybody resonating with the show so much. I definitely feel like it reminds me of all of those shows we loved so much in like the early to mid 2000s. Belly needs to be incarcerated. Jail time for Belly. She needs to be put on timeout. Honestly, I feel like her having to figure out where to live and eat in Paris without having a place to stay or a job or going to school was enough punishment for her, and I'm glad she made it out alive because I don't think I would have. Now we're moving on to the movie predictions, which I don't have too many, but I do feel like we're going to be getting Susanna's letter, a wedding of some kind, hopefully like the whole story from them in Paris up until them getting married. Like, is there an engagement? Do they move to California? Are they all in San Francisco together? Do they go back to the cousin's house? There's just so much. I don't know where we could go because we have nothing to go off now. I definitely feel like there's gonna be something going on with Laurel and Adam, which would be interesting because we saw Laurel and John kind of reconciling, but they had a weird little like flirty moment at the last episode. If there's a movie, there has to be conflict. Unfortunately, that is true. I'm willing to give up Jeremiah and Denise for that conflict to happen so that Belly and Conrad don't need to fight. I don't know what the conflict could possibly be, honestly. Like differences in future goals, like Conrad wants to be a doctor in California, but Belly wants to live at the beach. Like, I don't know. There has to be some dramatic event to happen, obviously. More Agnes in the movie, please. But afraid she won't have a story. I feel like if they move to San Francisco, like they're alluding to, I feel like Agnes will make an appearance and hopefully she gets more of a storyline. I think and hope that the movie will be released during December. Now that would be interesting because obviously Christmas is like their thing. It would be interesting to have a Christmas wedding, a winter wedding. It would be the antithesis of the whole premise of the show. The summer I Turn Pretty and then it ending, them getting married in the winter. Interesting. Timeline wise, that would make sense because they still have to film the movie. And so if it doesn't come out like next December, it will be in 2 years, which I don't know if I could wait that long. Someone said we don't need a movie. Sorry. I agree with Jenny. I think in order to do the epilogue justice, we needed more time for it than just shoving it in the last couple, minutes or an extra episode. We need to fully flush out that plot line. Okay, we'll end on this one. The movie will have a Bonrad wedding and possibly a Staler engagement pregnancy. Yeah, I do wonder what's gonna happen with Steven and Taylor. Maybe they'll get engaged. Maybe they'll get married. If somebody has a baby, that'll be crazy. That'll be crazy. Yeah, I wonder which couples are going to make it, considering like Denise and Jeremiah. Are they gonna make it because she has to move to San Francisco and he's gonna be a chef? Is he moving to San Francisco? Taylor and Steven are staying together, so that's a good sign. So I feel like Denise and Jeremiah might grow apart. Maybe come back together in some way. But other than that, thank you guys so much for listening to me yap about The Summer I Turned Pretty for so long. I love this show. I love the series, the books, everything. It feels so weird to be closing this chapter because we've literally like been watching this show for like 4 years now, and who knows when we're gonna get this movie, but I'm glad that it's not fully over. If you haven't read the books, I encourage you to do so. They're so good. And like I said, drop all of your opinions, thoughts, anything else down below, and we can all chat about our predictions and everything. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Really helps out the channel. You can subscribe if you're not already. Thanks for being here. You're really carrying the average view duration, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.